Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Sol at the Movies. And today on the final Sol at the Movies, we're going to be taking a look at the best and worst animated movies of 2018. And here's what I thought of them. So, the best movie, without any shadow of a doubt, would have to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, despite what I personally believe to be a bit of weak characterization and definitely weak on the villain aspect, the fact that Into the Spider-Verse is so unbelievably amazing with its visuals, its animation style, presentation, everything like that, means it undeniably takes the highest spot on this list. So yeah, while I don't think it's a perfect movie, I do think that its creativity definitely makes it stand head and shoulders above every other offering this year. Now this year wasn't nearly as bad as 2017, which had some really standout awful movies, but that's not to say there weren't some bad ones, but it's nice to see that the best movie of this year is something that seems to genuinely come from a really special place, and I'm happy to say that it was the best of the year. Next would be Teen Titans Go to the movies. Now, color me surprised, seriously, because I, along with a lot of other people, didn't think this movie would be any good because the advertising made it kind of look, well, a bit shit, to be honest. But hey, what do you know? It's a little bit by the numbers, but it's a solidly put together, decent movie. It's quite entertaining. I've watched it 4 times at this point, and it definitely isn't a one-time kind of thing. It's got good characterization, although it's carried on from the show. You don't have to watch the show to enjoy it, which is also a little thing to be thankful for. It's just silly, funny, action-packed, and really it's just delightful to watch. Whether or not you like or dislike the show, it's just a genuinely good, well-put-together movie. Considering how low the budget is for this movie, too, it's pretty amazing how good it is. So it's definitely second on the list. Next would be Sergeant Stubby, An American Hero. So, while I don't think this movie is great, and I do think that it really missed an opportunity by not making the movie itself PG-13, despite the fact that it was about World War I, and it didn't show a single person dying in it. The only person who died off screen. That's pretty lame, but overall I think this is just a nice, genuine, kind of heartwarming movie about a special dog who is in special circumstances doing special things. So yeah, I don't think it's perfect. I think it just kind of toes the line a little bit, I would say, above average. It doesn't do anything egregiously awful except just being rated PG, which, if that's the worst thing this movie has, then can't be all that bad. Next up would be Isle of Dogs. Now, I know some people are going to be pissed that I didn't put Isle of Dogs above Sergeant Stubby, but the thing is that with Isle of Dogs, well, I think that the presentation is unbelievable for a stop-motion movie. I found myself just unable to connect properly with any of the characters because of Wes Anderson's presentation and directing style. It's all very bland, just from a characterization. I can't remember a single character in it except for Atari and the main dog, Chief, or Boss, or whatever his name was. Everybody else just kind of... So yeah, in terms of just aesthetically, it's unbelievably good, but I feel it really falls short in the characterization aspect, and the fact that it didn't really need to be a Japanese story at all, the fact that the white people end up having to save the day, which, that's a whole different thing, but it just, little things kind of pile up. So yeah, I think that Sergeant Stubby, well, it does disappoint in one big aspect. It's just more solid overall, whereas Isle of Dogs has one big hurdle that makes me unable to enjoy it as much as everybody else seemed to. Next would be Smallfoot. Real middle-of-the-road movie here. This is like as neutral can get. It doesn't do anything egregiously bad, except for a couple annoying characters. It doesn't do anything egregiously good, really, except some of the snow effects look nice, but we pretty much nailed snow effects in 2013, so It's one of those movies you'd see playing in a dentist's office, or you'd put it on if you were babysitting your little cousins or something like that. It's bland and it's inoffensive, but that's fine. I mean, it doesn't do anything great, it doesn't do anything bad, so whatever. It's just middle of the line. Following after that would be Early Man. So this is starting to fall a little bit more on the bad side, and again, while I think the presentation for this movie is really good with a stop-motion Aardman aesthetic, the problem is that never anywhere was this advertised as a sports movie, at least in North America. I've heard that it was heavily advertised as a sports movie in Europe, where soccer or football is a lot more popular. So, okay, but in North America, this was more advertised as, like, The Croods than a sports movie, and as far as a sports movie goes, it's incredibly by the numbers and really boring. It's quite boring. And the presentation with its browns and, well, brown. All I remember about the movie is that it's brown. It's extremely brown. So being brown and boring and light on the characters and not very interesting plot-wise and even a little bit sparse on the humor, it's just starting to fall a little bit into the bad. Coming up next would be WreckIt Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. And now I know a lot of people really enjoyed this movie, and that's okay. I'm sure most people would put it a lot higher on their lists, but I don't, and that's because, despite the fact that, again, it's super well animated, especially the last 10 minutes, or the climax is extremely well animated, I can't stand this movie. Really, and it's just, I put it higher on the list because it's something that personally bothers me, but it's not a universal thing, so that's why I can't be like, ugh, this is the worst ever. But the fact that it gets a depiction of the internet so unbelievably wrong that, and it lies by omission multiple times. It just assumes that the internet is just a happy, nice place where everyone gets along with each other and that you can quickly monetize your social media platforms and that it doesn't take money to get it to you. It doesn't take days or weeks or months to get money to you. There's all these little things. So, and also, I don't like that Vanellope ultimately she is a better character in this, but I don't like that she ultimately kind of acts like a selfish brat and gets exactly what she wants and doesn't have any consequences for how she makes Ralph feel, but whatever. So, while I don't think that this movie is universally bad, it just has a huge part of it that really pisses me off personally, and that's why I have to categorize it as bad. I didn't think WreckIt Ralph needed a sequel to begin with, and for the sequel that we got, I definitely think it wasn't worth it. Next up would be The Incredibles 2. Alright, now we're really starting to fall on the bad side of it here, because much like WreckIt Ralph 2, there is a big aspect of this movie that I don't like. Again, the good parts are really good. With the action, with Elastigirl, I think the climax is quite well done, despite the fact that it has too many characters doing things that aren't interesting, and the fact that the villain's plot makes no sense, and the twist is extremely easy to predict, but it's just Jack-Jack. Jack-Jack is what condemns this movie in my head, in my heart, just taking up a significant chunk. Half the movie with this dumb baby shit makes me never want to watch this movie again. The Incredibles is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's my favorite Pixar movie, but The Incredibles 2, I want to see it again because I want to see those awesome action scenes, but I never want to watch it again because of those horrifically terrible Jack-Jack scenes. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, but a lot of people, you know, don't really seem to care, so again, I can't put this as the worst because it's not a universal feeling, but really, I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. And next would be Hotel Transylvania 3. Just bad. Now, not as bad as Hotel Transylvania 2, but bad. There isn't really a single thing about Hotel Transylvania 3 that's good in my eyes. And like I said, the animation, it is zippy and energetic and entertaining, but at this point it's just the equivalent, the animation equivalent of jingling keys in somebody's face, and it's bad. This movie doesn't really have a single redeeming quality in it. Again, not as egregiously terrible as Hotel Transylvania 2, but it's not that far off, really. All I can say is just, it is bad. And coming up next would be Sherlock Gnomes. Once again, bad! But the problem with Sherlock Gnomes that makes it, you know, worse than Hotel Transylvania 3 is that the advertising for it was so horrifically terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. The first 30 minutes is like so unbearably terrible, and yeah, it kind of levels out at the end and gets less stupid, but it really wants to dip its toes in that meme juice. Ooh, it just loves the memes with the selfie sticks and the dabbing, and the mankini, aren't we random and lol? It's basically the humor equivalent of the Emoji Movie, but I think maybe slightly less pandering, so yeah, it's not as bad as the Emoji Movie, but man, it's pretty wretched, let me tell you. And coming up last, and certainly least, to the surprise of I'm sure nobody, is the Grinch. Now, yeah, I made 2 videos about this already, one which was filled with so much seething rage, which was made about 5 minutes after I watched the movie, And I can't possibly replicate that amount of sheer vitriol that I had against the movie. Every single second of that movie is pure awfulness. Like, at least Hotel Transylvania 3 you could argue is, like, good for children, maybe. Again, maybe it plays in a dentist's office or something like that. But The Grinch isn't even good for that. It's a boring, lifeless, cash-grabbing, disrespectful waste of time and money and talent. And, oh, man, I just didn't think Illumination could stoop any lower after the Lorax, but lo and behold, people, they did it. And The Grinch, I have to say, is the worst movie that Illumination has ever made, bar none, and it is the worst movie of 2018. Not just animated movie, I think it might be the worst movie of 2018. Although I hadn't seen every movie last year, so maybe that's a bit biased. But, hey, you gotta push your opinions if you want them to be heard, don't they? So, I hope you enjoyed this Sol at the Movies, and I hope you enjoyed Sol at the Movies. This will be the last one, and, well, that's all I have to say about that.